In the days after the presidential election, the Trump campaign and Republicans in the great state of Nevada and our friends at the Fox News Channel, they were very, very, very excited about what they said was one clear-cut, absolutely indisputable, terrible case of documented voter fraud. You may say that voter fraud wasn't proven. Well, in this case, it was definitely proven. They relentlessly hyped the case of a single ballot that was cast in the name of a woman who definitely could not have cast that ballot legally herself because she sadly had died in 2017. Clark County, Nevada issued a mail ballot in her name, this deceased woman's name. They mailed that ballot to her home address. Voting records then showed that that ballot had been filled out and returned and counted in the election. How could that be? She died in 2017. Her husband said he never saw any ballot. No ballot for her ever arrived at their house. So this must be a clear case of voter fraud. Somebody stole that woman's ballot and voted in that woman's name. The Nevada Republican Party frequently, repeatedly promoted this video of the husband speaking with the local CBS station.
It was disbelief. Just it made no sense to me, but it lent some credence to the what you've been hearing in the media and about these possibilities, and now it makes me wonder how pervasive is this?
How pervasive is this? He was shocked to find out that a ballot had been cast in his late wife's name. Couldn't believe it. Made no sense. But, it sure does make you think, right? All these claims you've been hearing about all this voter fraud, it must be true. Here's a proven case. If there's this one proven case, there must be tons of it. Well, today that man, the husband, pled guilty in court to felony voter fraud because he now admits, after all that he was actually the one who cast his late wife's ballot. The poster boy for voter fraud, who was so shocked that this could have happened. Kirk Hartle was sentenced to a year's probation and a $2,000 fine. Here was the judge at his hearing today.
Ultimately, this seems to be, to me, a cheap political stunt that kind of backfired and showed that our voting system actually works because you were ultimately caught.
Our voting system actually works because you were ultimately caught. After all the hyping of this story by the Trump campaign and the Fox News Channel and Nevada Republicans in particular, as far as we can tell, none of those entities have had any response at all now to the husband now pleading guilty, to the bizarre, stunning collapse of probably the most highly promoted false voter fraud allegation in the country. Joining us now is the man we turn to anytime something crazy happens in Nevada politics, my friend John Ralston, founder and CEO of the Nevada Independent, MSNBC political analyst. John, it's great to see you, my friend. Thanks for being here.
Nice seeing you too, Rachel.
So have I got the four corners of this story correct? Is there anything important here that I'm leaving out or that I'm getting wrong?
There is a QAnon tie. Do you want to hear that since you've been talking about QAnon a little bit?
Okay, go ahead.
The one part that you didn't talk about is this guy who has now pled guilty actually works for a guy who is essentially a mini Sheldon Adelson out here. He is a rich guy who, when Caesar's Palace rejected a QAnon convention recently, guess where it went? To the company where this guy works. This whole thing was a sham from the beginning, Rachel, we now know. But you accurately dramatized how incensed they all were that this voter fraud had taken place and how front and center Kirk Hartle's allegations were. It was Adam Laxalt, now running for the U.S. Senate, I should mention, who was the co-chairman of the Trump campaign. And the Trump campaign nationally sent two partisan thugs out here, Matt Schlapp of the American Conservative Union, who mentioned Hartle by name, and Rick Grenell, who, as you know, is essentially an internet troll elevated by the Trump administration. Those three were at a news conference, and they repeatedly said that there was massive voter fraud, and Matt Schlapp invoked Kirk Hartle's name as essentially the canary in the coal mine, or as you called him, the poster boy for voter fraud. And now it has all collapsed.
Now that it has collapsed, has there been any reckoning at all? I wouldn't expect it from somebody like Ambassador Grinnell, for example, but within Nevada, within the Republican Party, particularly because they use this not only to hype this idea nationally, but to use it as the basis for advocating for voting restrictions in the state of Nevada. Has there been any reckoning with the fact that the whole pretext that they created around this story was false?
Sounds of silence, Rachel. They've not said a word. And by the way, if any of them had any integrity whatsoever or weren't tendentiously trying to create this atmosphere to put those election restrictions in place, Rachel, they would have apologized for foisting this fraud upon the public. The big question to me, of course, is what did they know and when did they know it? That this was just a guy who essentially was fabricating this. And believe me, he's getting off relatively easy, as you saw with the sentence there, because the case essentially is circumstantial. That is, they didn't actually see him cast a ballot, but they had evidence, I'm told, my sources tell me, Rachel, on video and some text messages in which they had the guy pretty cold. And so they have not, Adam Laxalt, Rick Grinnell, Matt Schlapp, the chairman of the Republican Party, Michael McDonald, there have been crickets since this decision came out and then the sentence was imposed today.